Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ati Mataji, Ritesh Prabhu, Kamal Krishna Prabhu, Vishwanath Prabhu for leading the chanting today. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. We'll start with Mangalacharan. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा ओके So as always, after Shravanam, Kirtanam, through the japa and meditation on the Lord, Vishnu Smaranam, now we do Vandanam, which is offering prayers by very, very exalted devotees of the Lord. Since we have no qualifications to offer any prayers, we are following in the footsteps of our acharyas by reciting these wonderful prayers that they have given to us so mercifully that we can read them, we can learn from them, and we can imbibe some of those qualities in our own life. I posted the link in the chat this whole month on the auspicious occasion of Sri Ram Navami, appearance of Lord Sri Ramachandra. We are reciting these prayers from Sri Mukundamala Stotra, given to us so mercifully by Sri Kulashekara Alvar, who is none other than the incarnation of Kaustubhamani of the Lord, that the Lord keeps close to his chest, to his heart. And he has given us these wonderful prayers. So we will recite these prayers. Every week we have been reciting 10 prayers. These are like Mukundamala Stotra. These are flower, garland of flowers. So every verse is like a flower that Shri Kulashekara Alvar is offering to the Lord as a garland. So we have already done 20 verses. Today, this week, we'll continue from 31 to 40. Okay, so I'll start reciting and then we'll do the translations. शत्रुच्छेदैकमन्त्रं सकलमुपनिषद् वाक्यसम्पूज्य मन्त्रं संसारोच्छेदमन्त्रं समुचिततमसः सङ्घनिर्याणमन्त्रम् सर्वैश्वर्यैकमन्त्रं व्यसनभुजङ्गसत् दष्टसन्त्राणमन्त्रं जिह्वे श्रीकृष्णमन्त्रं जप जप सततं जन्मसाफल्यमन्त्रम् व्यामोहप्रशमौषधं मुनिमनो वृत्तिप्रवृत्त्यौषधम् दैत्येन्द्रार्तिकरौषधं त्रिभुवने सञ्जीवनैकौषधम् भक्तात्यन्त्यहितौषधं भवभय प्रध्वंसनैकौषधम् श्रेयः प्राप्तिकरौषधं पिब मनः श्रीकृष्णदिव्यौषधम् कृष्णात्वदीयपदपङ्कजपञ्जरान्तम् अद्यैव मे विशतु मानसराजहंसः प्राणप्रयाणसमये कफवातपित्तैः कण्ठावरोधनविधौ स्मरणं कुतस्ते चेतश्चिन्तय कीर्तय स्वरसने नाम्री नम्री भव त्वं शिरो हस्तावाञ्जलिसम्पुटं रचयतं वन्दस्व दीर्घं वपुः आत्मन् संश्रय पुण्डरीकनयनं नागचलेन्द्रस्थितं धन्यं पुण्यतमं तदेव परमं दैवं हि सत्सिद्धये शृण्वन् जनार्दन कथा गुणकीर्तनानि देहेन यस्य पुलकोद्गमरोमराजिः नोत्पद्यते नयनयो विमलाम्बुमाला तिक्तस्य जीवितमहो पुरुषाधमस्य अन्धस्य मे हृतविवेकमहाधनस्य चौरै प्रभो बलिभिर्निन्द्रियनामधेयै मोहान्धकूपकुहरे विनिपातितस्य देवेश देहि कृपणस्य करावलम्बम् इदं शरीरं शठसन्धिजर्जरं पतति अवश्यं परिणामपेशलम् किम् औषधं पृच्छसि मूढदुर्मते निरामयं कृष्णरसायनं पिब आश्चर्यमेतद्धि मनुष्यलोके सुधां परित्यज्य विषं पिबन्ति नामानि नारायणगोचराणि त्यक्त्वान्यवाचः कुहकः पठन्ति त्यजन्तु बान्धवा सर्वे निन्दन्तु गुरवो जनाः तथापि परमानन्दो गोविन्दो मम जीवनम् सत्यं ब्रवीमि मनुजा स्वयमूर्ध्वबाहुर्यो यो मुकुन्द नरसिंह जनार्दनेति जीवो जपति अनुदिनं मरणे रणे वा सदृशाय ददातभीष्टम् श्री मुकुंद माला स्तोत्र की जय। श्री कुलशेखर आलवार की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। Yes, anybody would like to read the translations for 31 to 40?
I can read Prabhuji. Oh, go ahead, Aarti Mataji, please.
It's okay, Mataji. I read yesterday also. You can read today.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. O tongue, please constantly chant the mantra composed of Sri Krishna's name. This is the only mantra for destroying all enemies, the mantra worshipped by every word of the Upanishads, the mantra that uproots samsara, the mantra that drives away all the darkness of ignorance, the mantra for attaining infinite opulence, the mantra for curing those bitten by the poisonous snake of worldly distress, and the mantra for making one's birth in this world successful. O mind, please drink the transcendental medicine of Sri Krishna's glories. It is a perfect medicine for curing the disease of bewilderment, for inspiring sages to engage their minds in meditation, and for tormenting the mighty Daita demons. It alone is a medicine for restoring the three worlds to life and for bestowing unlimited blessings on the Supreme Lord's devotees. Indeed, it is the only medicine that can destroy one's fear of material existence and lead one to the attainment of the supreme good. O Lord Krishna, at this moment let the royal swan of my mind enter the tangled stems of the lotus of your feet. How will it be possible for me to remember you at the time of death when my throat will be choked up with mucus, bile, and air? O mind, think of the lotus-eyed Lord who reclines on the mountain like serpent Ananta. O tongue, glorify him. O head, bow down to him. O hands, join your palms in the supplication to him. O body, offer outstretched obeisances to him. O heart, take full shelter of him. The Supreme Lord is the topmost deity. It is he alone who is all auspicious and supremely purifying. He alone who awards eternal perfection. One who hears descriptions of Lord Janarda's pastimes and glorious qualities, but whose bodily hair falls to bristle in ecstasy, whose eyes fail to flood with tears of pure love. Such person is indeed the most degraded rascal. What a condemned life he leads. O Lord, the powerful thieves of my senses have blinded me by stealing my most precious possession, my discrimination, and they have thrown me deep into the pitch dark well of delusion. Please, O Lord of Lords, extend your hand and save this wretched soul. This body's beauty is fleeting, and at last the body must come to death after its hundreds of joints have stiffened with old age. So why, bewildered fool, are you asking for medication? Just take the Krishna elixir, the one who cure that never fails, the one cure that never fails. The greatest wonder in human society is this: people are so incorrigible that they reject the life giving nectar of Lord Narayana's names and instead drink poison by speaking everything else. Let my relatives all abandon me, and my superiors condemn me. Still, the supremely blissful Govinda remain my life and soul. O mankind, with arms raised high, I declare the truth. Any mortal who chants the names of Mukunda, Narsimha, and Janardana day after day, even in battle or when facing death, will come to regard his most cherished ambitions are no more valuable than a stone or a block of wood. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Minimataji. Wonderful. Yes. Again, through all these prayers, Shekhar Alwar is continuing to emphasize and insist on the glories of the holy name. Right? Like I said, he appeared just at the onset of Kali Yuga, and for this Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is Harinam, Sankirtan. So the japa, the kirtan that we do, all the acharyas, no matter whatever parampara we can follow, everybody's conclusion is the same. So that is the central point, and hopefully by listening to these day in, day out, day after day, repeatedly, hopefully someday our obstinate mind can one day catch on to these wonderful holy names of the Lord, which is the only way, and only way in this day of Kali Yuga to get out of this cycle of birth and death. Yeah, wonderful prayers by Kulashekhar Alvar again. So the first prayer that we read was kind of a crown jewel as well. During our chanting, we can always remember the first verse also, which glorifies all the different names of the Lord. Shri Vallabheti Varadeti Daya Pareti Bhakta Priyeti Bhavalunthana Kovideti Natheti Nagashayani Jagannivaset Alapinam Pratidinam Kurumam Mukunda. That may I every day, every moment of my life, may I be able to recite the wonderful holy names of you, O my Lord. So that should be the prayer when we do our japa as well, because at japa we are just trying to chant the holy names of the Lord, and that is the prayer that Kulashekhar Alvar says at the very, very beginning of Mukundamala Stotra. Okay, wonderful. Thank you again. So we'll continue with the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, another purest of pure devotees of the Lord who appeared to uplift this world, to give a drop of the compassion that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us. Srila Prabhupada came to continue that and flood the world with that same mercy. So we are currently reading from chapter 17. Yesterday we read in Hindi, and Srila Prabhupada has now moved, or about to leave his apartment 307 that he had rented in the same building as the yoga studio of Dr. Mishra, that when he moved to New York. And yesterday we saw how, again, one after the other, all the troubles are continuing. Somebody ransacked his apartment and stole away his typewriter and the tape recorder that he was again using as instruments in his preaching and in his publication. So the other gentleman who was coming for the yoga, Harvey Cohen, he now has a loft in downtown Bowery, and he was himself planning to move to California, but he wanted Srila Prabhupada to move into his loft there. And Prabhupada is now, we'll see what he does next. So let's continue reading. So we'll read from here. Okay. Srila Prabhupada's new home, the Bowery, had a long history. In the early 1600s, when Manhattan was known as New Amsterdam and was controlled by the Dutch West India Company, Peter Minuit, the governor of New Netherland, staked out a north-south road that was called the Bowery because a number of boweries or farms lay on either side. It was a dusty country road lined with quaint Dutch cottages and bordered by the peach orchards growing in the estate of Peter Stuyvesant. It became part of the high road to Boston and was of strategic importance during the American Revolution as the only land entrance to New York City. In the early 1800s, the Bowery was predominated by German immigrants. Later in the century, it became predominantly Jewish, and gradually it became the city's center of theatrical life. However, as the history of Lower Manhattan describes, after 1870 came the period of the Bowery's celebrated degeneration. Fake auction rooms, saloons specializing in 5-cent whiskey and knockout drops, sensational dime museums, filthy and rat-ridden stale beer dives, together with Charles M. Hoyt's song, The Bowery, I'll Never Go There Anymore, fixed it forever in nation's consciousness as a place of unspeakable corruption. The reaction of Prabhupada's electrician friend was not unusual. The Bowery is still known all over the world as Skid Row, a place of ruined and homeless alcoholics. Perhaps the uptown electrician had done business in the Bowery and had seen the derelicts sitting around passing a bottle or lying unconscious in the gutter, or staggering up to passerby and drunkenly bumping into them to ask for money. Most of the Bowery's 7 or 8,000 homeless men slept in lodging houses that required them to vacate their rooms during the day. Having nowhere else to go and nothing else to do, they would loiter on the street, standing silently on the sidewalks, leaning against a wall, or shuffling slowly along, alone or in groups. In cold weather, they would wear 2 coats and several suits of clothes at once and would sometimes warm themselves around a fire they would keep going in a city garbage can. At night, those without lodging slept on the sidewalks, doorsteps, and street corners, crawled into discarded boxes, or sprawled side by side next to the bars. Thefts were commonplace. A man's pockets might be searched 10 or 20 times while he slept. The rates of hospitalization and death in Bowery were 5 times higher than the national average, and many of the homeless men bore marks of recent injuries or violence. Prabhupada's loft, 94 Bowery, was 6 blocks south of Houston Street. At Houston and Bowery, derelicts converged in the heavy crosstown traffic. When cars stopped for the light, bums would come up and wash the windshields and ask for money. South of Houston, the first blocks held mostly restaurant supply stores, lamp stores, taverns, and luncheonettes. The buildings were of 3 and 4 stories, old, narrow, crowded tenements, their faces covered with heavy fire escapes. Traffic on the Bowery ran uptown and downtown. Cars parked on both sides of the street, and the constant traffic passed tightly. During the business day, working people passed briskly among the slow moving derelicts. Many of the store windows were covered with protective iron gates, but behind the gates, the store owners lit their varieties of lamps to attract prospective wholesale and retail customers. 94 Bowery was just 2 doors north of Hester Street. The corner was occupied by the spacious Half Moon Tavern, which was frequented mostly by neighborhood alcoholics. Above the tavern sat a 4 story Bowery flophouse marked by a neon sign, Palma House, which was covered by a protective metal cage and hung from the second floor on large chains. The hotel's entrance at 92 Bowery, which had no lobby but only a desolate hallway covered with dirty white tiles, was no more than 6 feet from the entrance to 94. 94 Bowery was a narrow, 4 story building. It had long ago been painted grey and bore the usual facing of a massive black fire escape. A well worn black double door, its glass panels reinforced with chicken wire, opened onto the street. The sign above the door read AIR, third and fourth, indicating that artists in residence occupied those floors. The first floor of the next building north, 96 Bowery, was used for storage, and its front entrance was covered with a rusty iron gate. At 98 Bowery was another tavern, Harold's, smaller and dingier than the Half Moon. Thus, the block consisted of 2 saloons, a flophouse, and 2 buildings with lofts. In the 1960s, loft living was just beginning in that area of New York City. The city had given permission for painters, musicians, sculptors, and other artists who required more space than available in most apartments to live in buildings that had been constructed as factories in the 19th century. After these abandoned factories had been fitted with fireproof doors, bathtubs, shower stalls, and heating, an artist could inexpensively use a large space. Those were the AIR lofts. Harvey Cohen's loft on the top floor of 94 Bowery was an open space almost 100 feet long from east to west and 25 feet wide. It received a good amount of sunlight on the east, the Bowery side, and it also had windows at the west end as well as a skylight. The exposed rafters of the ceilings were 12 feet above the floor. Harvey Cohen had used the loft as an art studio, and racks of paintings still lined the walls. A kitchen and shower were partitioned off in the northwest corner, and a room divider stood about 15 feet from the Bowery side windows. This divider did not run from wall to wall, but was open at both ends, and it was several feet short of the ceiling. It was behind this partition that Prabhupada had his personal living area. A bed and a few chairs stood near the window, and Prabhupada's typewriter sat on his metal trunk next to the small table that held his stacks of Bhagavatam manuscripts. His dhotis hung drying on a clothesline. On the other side of the partition was a dais, about 10 feet wide and 5 feet deep, on which Prabhupada sat during his kirtans and lectures. The dais faced west, toward the loft's large open space, open, that is, except for a couple of rugs and an old fashioned solid wood table, and on an easel, Harvey's paintings of Lord Chaitanya dancing with his associates. The loft was a 4-flight walk up, and the only entrance, usually heavily bolted, was a door in the rear, at the west end. From the outside, this door opened into a hallway, lit only by a red exit light over the door. The hallway led to the right a few steps and into the open area. If a guest entered during a kirtan or a lecture, he would see the Swami about 30 feet from the entrance, seated on his dais. On other evenings, the whole loft would be dark, but for the glow of the red exit light in the little hallway and a soft illumination radiating from the other side of the partition where Prabhupada was working. Prabhupada lived on the Bowery, sitting under a small light, while hundreds of derelicts also sat under hundreds of naked lights on the same city block. He had no more fixed income than the derelicts, nor any greater security of a fixed residence. Yet his consciousness was different. He was translating Srimad Bhagavatam into English, speaking to the world through his Bhaktivedanta purports. His duty, whether on the 14th floor of a Riverside Drive apartment building or in a corner of a Bowery loft, was to establish Krishna consciousness as the prime necessity for all humanity. He went on with his translating and with his constant vision of a Krishna temple in the New York City. Because his consciousness was absorbed in Krishna's universal mission, he did not depend on his surroundings for shelter. Home for him was not a matter of bricks and wood, but of taking shelter of Krishna in every circumstance. As Prabhupada had said to his friends uptown, everywhere is my home. Whereas without Krishna's shelter, the whole world would be a desolate place. Often he would refer to a scriptural statement that people live in three different modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Life in the forest is in the mode of goodness, life in the city is in passion, and life in a degraded place like a liquor shop, a brothel, or the Bowery is in the mode of ignorance. But to live in a temple of Vishnu is to live in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, which is transcendental to all three material modes. And this Bowery loft where Prabhupada was holding his meetings and performing kirtan was also transcendental. And he was behind the partition, working in his corner before the open pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. That room was as good as his room back at the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. News of the Swami's move to the Bowery loft spread, mostly by word of mouth at the Paradox restaurant, and people began to come by in the evening to chant with him. The musical kirtans were especially popular on the Bowery since the Swami's new congregation consisted mostly of local musicians and artists who responded more to the transcendental music than to the philosophy. Every morning he would hold a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, attended by David Allen, Robert Nelson, and another boy, and occasionally he would teach cooking to whoever was interested. He was usually available for personal talks with any inquiring visitors or with his new roommate. Although Prabhupada and David each had a designated living area in the large loft, the entire place soon became dominated by Prabhupada's preaching activities. Prabhupada and David got on well together, and at first, Prabhupada considered David as an aspiring disciple. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Okay. Anybody has any thoughts or reflections from today's reading?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Anandini Gopika Mataji. Yes.
Thank you for reading this. The paragraph that you just read about the contrast between Prabhupada and the derelicts who were living on Bhavri, um, both had no fixed income, and there was really no difference. But the main huge thing was Prabhupada was speaking to the world through his Bhaktivedanta purports. His consciousness was different. And then the other contrast, where initially he was living at Park Avenue, Manhattan, and now, in this beaten up place in Bavary. But he didn't consider the bricks and walls as the house. It was, in fact, where he lived had become no different than Vaikuntha, because the Lord's pastimes, the Lord's glories, Lord's kirtans were going on. This was really, really beautiful. So I just wanted to think about that today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, those are some wonderful contrasts, like you said. Contrast, this world is a contrast of the spiritual world. It's a perverted reflection, like we always read from Srila Prabhupada's books. And here, how he has, just by his presence, just by the presence of a pure devotee, that's why we say again and again, Love Mata Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hai. Just by the presence, just by the darshan of a pure devotee of the Lord, the place is transformed into Vaikuntha, into the holy abode of the Lord. And how wonderful it is that today, after 50 years of his passing, more than 50 years, we are having so many spiritual abodes, so many Vaikunthas in almost every town and village, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted. But we see the humble beginnings where it all started, and how from a lowly place on the Bowery, where such people who can be thought of as the situation of people in the material world, right? The people of all these people actually who are homeless, shelterless, because when you don't take shelter of your supreme Father, then we are actually like people who have run away from our home and become homeless without the shelter of our Guru, without the shelter of our Lord. And that is the condition of all these people on the Bowery side. But when pure devotee of the Lord comes just to uplift all such people, and yes, all these temples that Srila Prabhupada has established, all these centers that he has established over the world, these are like embassies. Like how we have embassies in India. Before we come to US, we have to go to the US embassy to take our visa to go. So similarly, all these places, all these centers that he has constructed, these are the embassies to go back to home, back to Godhead. So these are Vaikunthas that he has established just for the suffering people, the suffering humanity. Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you. I really liked your embassy thing. I'll always remember it now.
Yeah. Anybody else has any other thoughts or anything that you liked, loved, or learned from today? No.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Just a similar thought what you and Anandini were discussing. No matter how our external circumstances may be, with higher consciousness, with more fixed conviction, we can always fix our internal consciousness, like how Prabhupada did. So we can all focus on that point. Yes.
Yeah. And actually, the prayers that we read today from Mukundamala Stotra reminds me of what you just said, that the 33rd verse actually was very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. He sang that so many times in his lectures and in his talks. Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Panjarantam. That, oh my mind, please always be entangled in the lotus flower like stem of the Lord's lotus feet, and let it be there, just like a swan. When he's in the swan, actually, when the swan likes to play in the lake, it would try to play under the surface of the water, in the stems of the lotus flowers. So similarly, Prabhupada is comparing our mind, that it is so restless, it is so chanchal, right? It's a chanchalam himana Krishna, that it is so fickle, it goes here and there. But what's the point of going here and there? And just entangle yourself into the stem stem of the lotus flower of the Lord's lotus feet, and do it right now, because at the time of death, when our body will be completely useless, and our what kind of thoughts we will get again is all what we practice right now. So every moment, every day, again, all the sadhana that we are doing is solely and solely for that purpose, that we may practice now, because practice doesn't make us perfect, because nobody's perfect, but at least practice makes us progress. And with this progress that we are making step by step every day, and eventually at the point of death, we'll be, hopefully, by mercy of the Lord, mercy of our Guru Parampara, we'll have that consciousness, that, with that consciousness surrendered at the lotus feet of the Lord, that we may be able to remember Him at the time of passing, and we can go back to Him to serve Him eternally. But yeah, that is a wonderful prayer that, if nothing else, and Mukundamala Stotra, the number 33, which is very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. And of course, like I said, number 1 shloka is also very, very nice meditation when we do japa. That's something Amarendra Prabhu also was recently quoting in one of his lectures. So those 2 verses at least, if none of the other verses we can remember, at least verse number 1 and verse number 33, we should try to memorize and remember those. Yes, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Anybody else has any other thoughts? Okay, if not, then we'll conclude here for today. Thank you once again for your kind association. We'll end with Vaishnava Pranam prayers. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Leelamrit ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Have a great day, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.